Thank you for coming to the emergency management presentation. We'll get started. In October 2016, Hurricane Matthew hit the southeast coast of the United States, causing over $6 billion in damages. As you can imagine, they impacted a lot of our Cityworks clients who were able to leverage Cityworks and web maps to really communicate with their residents throughout this event. Here are some images of what our clients were dealing with. They were dealing with having to remove fallen trees, debris on the roadway, and excess rainfall. Through the use of Cityworks and web maps, they were able to help their community stay engaged throughout the storm, communicate with them, but more importantly, manage this event in an effective and efficient manner. Here is a web map the City of Gainesville provided their residents. As you can see, they were able to map where their work orders were being done throughout the event. They could communicate this with their residents in an efficient manner, but more importantly, keep them informed throughout the event as these work orders were posting and the web maps were updating and publishing. So as you can see, the big takeaway from this though is that I could see the information from the work order straight from the map, but more importantly, I could actually assign it a project name, in this case Hurricane Matthew. And you'll notice as we go through this presentation, this is very helpful, especially as you're dealing with FEMA and trying to document any costs or any process really that was taken throughout this event. We'll follow that through how Cityworks can really leverage the system to help you make this process a lot easier and faster. St. Johns County, Florida, which for the focus of this demo, we're actually going to be using their data set, and we'll continue to discuss how they went through the recovery process. This is one of the web maps that they were able to provide their residents in a timely manner. They were able to show, hey, we have some closed roads in this area, we have debris, but they were able to do this once again as this information was coming in, communicating it to the residents in a timely manner through web maps. So this is something that the call takers would be receiving and actually initiating the service request. As you can see from the map, this is actually a service request, and they could keep up with this information. Well, from the service request, actual work orders had to be created, and so from this web map, you can note how St. Johns County was actually able to communicate with their residents the areas where debris was being picked up, the amount, the volume of it, and this was also correlated directly to the cost of that debris pickup and disposal, which would be very helpful as we move towards or in the process of reimbursement through FEMA. This is a really neat web map that St. Johns County was able to provide. This is a time lapse, and this actually showed the entire event and how the damages, where the damages were located, and how the event really grew throughout its time, its course. So you could provide all the work orders on this web map, but most importantly, if there's any SSOs, any backups, if there's any boil notices, any really information that needed to be communicated to residents could be conveyed through this time lapse and through this web map. This was not only assisting the county in knowing where the damages were, but also how they could start dispatching crews to really go and address this and reestablish services in a timely manner. So with Cityworks and Esri tools, we could actually leverage the two to help your city address these type of natural disasters in a more efficient manner. So if you're aware with crowdsourcing, this is an application Esri provides that actually can assist with citizen engagement, and it can help you communicate with your residents what service requests have been submitted or what needs to be submitted. In this case, we have a resident who's already submitted a request but wants to make an additional comment. You can tell that they can view their information. They can now add a comment by inputting that information and then their its contact information. And for example, if say they had reported that debris still hadn't been picked up and it had been 2 hours ago, well, they can actually now attach a picture that says, hey, no, really, this hasn't been picked up. They can attach that picture, submit it, and that information will now appear in crowdsourcing, but also we're going to show you how that works in Cityworks. So here I have a user who's actually logging into ArcGIS Online, and notice with the single sign-on that Cityworks provides, you can now sign on once, and it will allow you to seamlessly move throughout the applications. From here, I would select the office to actually go in and look at Cityworks Office. So everyone knows the inbox, and I can see that I have a new service request. I can click on it and open it. This is the same information that was submitted in crowdsourcing. It's the same information that you now see here in this template. So obviously has been carried over, even the picture is there. So same information submitted in crowdsourcing can now be dumped into Cityworks and develop that template automatically. From a map perspective, now I can actually look at it in a map and view where it is, maybe decide who I need to dispatch to that area to actually address that situation. But more importantly, I want to attach those assets and start creating a work order. So with that information, I've highlighted it. I'm going to go back into my template, and I'm actually directly from the service request going to create a related work activity as a work order. Just based on the implementation and what we have established in this system, I can actually select a template from my different options. You notice how the location information already populates. It knows it's an emergency event. My assets are attached, and now my work order will actually be created. So I'll review my work order and make sure all the information is there. My assets are attached. I can see my service request, and if I need to, I can jump back into it and view that information. I can also assign it to the necessary crew chief who will get the work done. So in this case, I've assigned it to a staff member. I've saved it, and now I want to see how that work's actually going to get done out in the field. So now I jump into my Cityworks native mobile app. I'm logging in as my crew chief Billy here. I can now view from the map and see that, hey, here's all the service requests, work orders open and available, but I can actually scroll over and see that there's been a new work order assigned to me. I can see the information straight from the map. I can click on it to view even further details, review it, but if this is still not something that is easier for me to see, I can jump into the inbox, view that information that matter, and actually scroll through that again to make sure I have all the details. And more importantly, as I'm doing the work, I can actually start to collect the data that I'm going to need as I work towards FEMA reimbursement. So I'm going to add my labor, my equipment, and my materials. Here I'm adding my work and for my volunteers because I still get reimbursed for even volunteers. Materials, I'm going to add what I actually added while I was getting this job done. I'm documenting all that, and this is calculating in the back end and saying what that cost is for each of these materials, which will roll up. So now we're into equipment. This is already set up in the back end with FEMA codes, and so all I have to do here is actually just designate what the unit and hours I use for each equipment piece that I may have used on this job. And once I add that, once again, it's calculated back with the FEMA codes that we have in the back end and the cost. I'm going to review it as a good crew chief, attach a picture so I can prove to my field supervisor that the work indeed has been done. Review it one more time, make sure everything's good, and then actually complete it at the bottom there. Now that I've completed this, this is going to sync it, not just in my system, but it's actually going to sync it across the platforms where this work order is tied to. So we're going to hop in back into Cityworks Office, and I'm going to be, once again, the field supervisor. I can see that service request and associated work order. So I can jump in and review that information, see that, hey, the work has been complete, see that the labor, equipment, and costs have been attached, and notice that it is tied to the necessary project in this case. And so with that project tied there, this is going to help me roll up some of that information as I move into FEMA documentation and costing that out. So now I can pull all the work activities related to this project in its own individual inbox and view it in a map. This now conveys to me and depicts all the work activities, whether are service requests, work orders, anything that's really been communicated and it's related to this event, I can now view it on a map. I can see the information directly from the map, and I could jump into it if I need to. But if I want to go back to a grid format, I can still view all that in a list format and see all those work activities and what work was done against them. But if I still want to dive even deeper into this, I can, or at least from a high level, maybe I'm a financial person, I can actually pull this project up in Project Manager and start seeing how much I've expended in this specific natural disaster. So I can see that this is how much I've expended for this specific event, this activation, and I can keep track of it, and this actually builds redundancy also for our financial systems and making sure that we have all the necessary information documented. So this next slide is actually a real life report that was submitted by St. Johns County. As you can see, I have my project already delineated. I've got my work orders, my work order numbers, the dates, the hours, the FEMA rates, and that all calculates to give me a complete cost. This is a roll-up of that information that I've been collecting in each work order and each service activity. So this is very, very helpful information, cutting down on time of really having to gather all this information, provide this in one concise report for documentation purposes for FEMA. This is now doing the work for me. So now I can actually jump back into Cityworks, and via Save Search, I can actually combine all of those different work activities that have been associated in this activation. I can export that out as a Save Search and load that into, I export it out as a Save Search, but as an URL. So I can export that out and now bring that into ArcGIS Online, which will allow it for further consumption within this platform, within the Esri platform. So now I can then move this into the EOC web app, and as you can note, this is now showing the same information I was able to see in Cityworks. I can see that information on a map displayed. So I can see all the associated work activities in one location and really help my EOC or my field crews and anyone else involved in this activation really view this information in a map and easy depiction. So this is just one way that Cityworks can help you leverage your different platforms, especially the Cityworks and Esri platforms, to really help you effectively and efficiently manage your next natural disaster event. Thank you and I appreciate your time.